Hello, I am back here per usual with Colleen.
Hello.
And today we're having a guest that we've had on before as well. Lorna, have we had you on once or twice? I think twice.
I've been on, I think definitely once, possibly twice. I can't remember. There's been a few podcasts, so it's great to be back.
Totally. Yes, we're here with Lorna McLean. She is joining us actually from Scotland, and we have had her on a couple of times in the past where we've talked about really interesting topics as well. She is a Reiki teacher extraordinaire, as well as a teacher of other things also. So, Lorna, thank you for joining us, and we're glad to have you back.
Thank you. It's great to be here again.
Yeah. So it's been a little while since we've had some conversations with you. Usually, what we like to do is start with your story about how you came to Reiki or the healing arts in general. And I think if I remember correctly, had a different background. Maybe you came from a corporate life or teaching, like a academic teacher.
No, definitely corporate. I was in
Corporate.
the world of insurance for a long time.
Okay, well,
Very different kind of energy.
big change. So, okay, how did you find Reiki or did you start elsewhere? Like, tell us your story.
So basically, Reiki came into my conscious awareness in 1996, and I just saw something written in a magazine about it, and it really pulled me. The word really pulled me. Um, and I sort of started to kind of look for it and eventually found somebody in Glasgow teaching it. Somebody was coming up from down south to teach. So I decided to go along to that class. And it was a first degree class, of course, in a very Western style Takata class, which was very, very interesting. However, I didn't really feel anything. And to be honest, came away from it thinking that was nice. Um, but I didn't really feel anything, so kind of forgot all about it, to be honest. Um, and then about a year later, was at a crystal stall at a holistic fair, and the woman whose house the class had happened in came up to me and said, "How are you getting on with your Reiki?" And I was like, "Well, I don't. It doesn't do anything for me. I don't. I think I can't do it." And she said, "Oh, come and see me. I'm now a teacher. Come and see me." And she kind of gently persuaded me to do my second degree class with her, and I'm so grateful for that. And she also helped me to understand that it didn't matter if I didn't feel anything. So that in itself was a great teacher to me. And it reminds me in a first degree class to tell people that it really doesn't matter if you don't see or feel things, because everybody gets a different experience. And I think with the holy fire energy, even more so. So, that was a great experience for me to have, although it didn't feel like that at the time. I went on 4 years later, woke up one day and just felt I had to do the master class. It was urgent. And my children, I was separated from my husband by that time. My children were still young. Um, and they were with their dad that particular weekend, so I was able to go. However, I didn't realize that I was actually going to be given the information on how to pass on Reiki attunements. It didn't even occur to me that that's what the masterclass was about. I had no idea why I was going. However, within a week, I had my family sitting in chairs having attunements. I'm sure they were humoring me. But however, within 4 weeks, I actually had my first class. And I was amazed by that, the fact that I just, dived in or dove in and had my first class with four people. And it was incredible, just how inspiring it was for me. And every class has been inspiring ever since because there's always different people. And even if it is the same people, we're in a different time and space. So for me, I think that's what keeps me teaching and just loving what I do. It's a real passion, as you probably are aware. And I know that you know this for yourselves. So yeah, that's how it kind of started.
When did you become a full-time teacher? Because that's such a big switch. And how did that actually, I know this is not what some of what we were planning to talk about, but how did that transition work for you in being in an industry that is very different than,
Yeah.
yeah, because we become different people,
So
right? So,
absolutely. Well, first of all, I knew that I needed to get out of a difficult
Mm.
situation in my marriage at the time. And I'm sure that Reiki assisted me with that. I worked full time, firstly in a hospital and then in insurance. My children, as I said, were young. In 2020, I'm sure Reiki assisted me in having the freedom then to move away from the marriage. And within a very short space of time, I found myself with the insurance company that I worked for. There was all these rules and regulations, and my bosses, I feel like, were all younger than me. And I was like, look, just a bit of mutual respect here. I can give you exactly what you need if you can give me exactly what I need. And so we managed to work something out. And what I did was I increased my daily hours and reduced my days, so I still had the same income, but I could gradually step up my holistic work and my spiritual work, and then eventually drop the hours down with the insurance company and eventually take that leap of faith. So it took about a year and a half. And then I was, going really on my own with two young kids with no help financially apart from what I was earning self employed. So it was a challenge. However, I'm so grateful to have been able to stand on my own 2 feet so quickly. And I'm sure, I have no doubts that, the universe was conspiring to help me with that because they knew that this was what I was meant to do. And I have no doubts about that as well. This is what I'm meant to do. This is part of my divine purpose.
And that was in 2020 that you,
Yeah, 2020. And I was teaching Reiki from 2022. So 24 years or so. Yeah.
to me, it's such a not common story, but common experience of Reiki where something calls a person to it, like just seeing the word or an energy, and they just jump right into it and then find out that Reiki has been calling them all along. And I think there's a
It's so
certain
exciting.
level for me because I had a similar, well, I did feel it though. That was a little bit different. Um, but I think that for me, the belief system that Reiki could do the work without my knowing everything about it, input, as you describe, you didn't feel it, didn't know it was happening, and just shifting out of that or into that belief system of that being possible was to me one of the biggest transformations.
I know that when I started teaching, and I still have my manuals out all the time, even after all these years. But when I first started doing the attunement processes, it was in the Sui Tibetan style at the time. And of course, there was all these things that we had to do around that, which was a lot. Um, and, feeling very much that if I walked out of the room while I was in the process of, sharing an attunement with someone or being that channel, if I just walked out of the room, that would have actually happened anyway, because the intention was when that person sat in the chair that they were going to receive that attunement. And I feel that that was going to happen whether I was there or not. And I never did walk out the room. However, now that we see how holy fire works, it's like, well, obviously, it just happens. And that's just incredible, actually, how it's evolved.
Lorna, did you mean 2002?
2002.
Two. Okay.
I
Because it sounded on our end, whether or not you said this 2020, so 2020. And then you said 24 years, and I'm like, wait a second here. So
I know them.
two,
That's
that's
why I
why I
asked,
asked
because
because the math wasn't
2002.
mathing. 2002. Okay. I'm glad we
Like,
clarified. I was like, wait, and knowing you from Animal Reiki, I was like, you're already established, like you've been an established
yeah,
teacher for a long time. So 2002 is when that all occurred, which may be how you say it, because we say our dates backwards from you. So I was like, okay. So
no, so
2002.
yes, we're sorted. It's 2002.
Gotcha. Okay. Oh, I'm so glad you asked, Robin, because that's why I was like, huh, I think we even had you on the podcast before that. So, when we were talking about you working with police dogs.
Yeah, I had a lady who came to me who had lost her police dog then, and I met her. She actually had her police dog's ashes in the car, and she came to see me that first time, and I said, bring him in. His name is Roxy. I'd bring him in, and I sat with his little box of ashes, and I gave him Reiki. And this woman, who at the time was a police dog handler, has since went on to, well, she was retired medically from the police after a while. She's now a Reiki master teacher, Holy Fire Reiki master teacher, a Karuna Holy Fire Reiki master teacher, and an animal Reiki master teacher. And she's went on to learn animal communication. And she's opened up this incredible business in Ayrshire, which is about 20 miles from here. And she's just doing amazing. Her name's Kimberly and Papadatos, and she's just amazing. And she's like, in with the animals constantly, but she's, left the police force and left that. I think what a lot of people consider to be quite a toxic environment. And I know it's not like that for everyone, of course. However, her experience was like that. And one of her dogs, who she wasn't allowed to take home with her when she retired, she's got, I think, 4 dogs just now, but one of her dogs was still a service dog. And only just very recently, she said to me, it would be really good if I could get Finn. And the next week, her manager phones up and said, do you want Finn? So she's got Finn as well. So they're all there with her. It's just lovely to see her just dive into that, It's incredible. In fact, you should have her on for a chat.
Oh, that is such a great story. All the way from, well, I don't think Reiki did anything for me. And
Yeah,
just loving how I'm always in awe of like, how does Reiki orchestrate all this? Like it just, I'm constantly in awe of it. And I think it's, that inner tapping and inner calling that leads us to where we're going. And yet there's so much evolution happening with it and within us of finding our own inner truth and our own pathway to that, that it's just fascinating to watch how it's all opening up and possible now.
yeah. When I see my own journey and the people that have, I've shared that with, and the people that have come through my doors, just like you, well, it's just incredible the amount of people who, and I think now, certainly over this past few years since, we've had lockdown and all the things that have happened since then, I feel a lot more younger people coming into my classes, a lot more children wanting to learn Reiki. Um, and people coming back to revisit classes again. And I know we've, touched on that before, where, if people come to me before, I say, you want to come back and revisit a class, we can do that for, a much reduced price, probably half price. And it really does encourage people to come back in and revisit everything, because every time we do that, it grows our experience so much, because things change, but also because we're in a different time and space ourselves. I'd revisited my first and second with William over lockdown online, but also, all my classes. That's me done all my classes with him and with you, both of you and Sue. And I think it's really important to revisit classes again. I think it gives us so much, keeps us inspired.
I agree. I too, Lorna, like, love your message about your history and your experience, because I think it's an important one when we're talking about not just starting off Reiki, but even well into a Reiki journeys, that it is a common experience to have, that you don't necessarily feel it in the way that many people talk about. And sometimes we're afraid to be like, I'm not really feeling this. Where, yeah, where, because what we hear about are the experiences where it's like, and it unlocked everything. And I had this giant, huge, you know, aha, eureka experience, which many people do. And that's important too. But I like that, when we talk about these times where it was more subtle, especially at first. And because I feel like it helps support people who also have that experience.
For sure. And I think that's why I had that experience in my first degree and didn't realize that it was okay not to feel anything. It took a while for me to understand that. But it's something that I do say in every first degree class. I've got a first degree class coming up this Saturday. the weekend I'm teaching. And, it's something that I think people relax when you say it. It's like, oh, there's no expectation that I see or feel something. And even, for teaching for all this time, I'm still not that kind of person who sees things or sees colors, or I don't get all that stuff. We've all got different gifts. So I think I've relaxed about that myself as well, in that I'm not searching for it anymore. And when it does come, it's a beautiful surprise.
Is just so true. And that's a subject that we're talking about with intuition and intuition styles. And that's one of the biggest things that we find when people take Reiki, because it starts to actually unlock our intuition and those gifts. But we just have so little training and teaching from childhood on as to what that looks like individually, because it gets assigned to clairvoyance, like being able to see, and yet there's a knowing or a thinking of your intuition that is equally powerful. It's not always a feeling for
Yeah, there's
everyone.
many different styles. Yeah, for sure. I think I feel we talk about this in our first degree class quite a lot about, the different their senses. And I think actually you offered something on your website a while back about clear senses, and that helped me a lot to help others to understand. And I created something myself around that. Um, I feel the more that we understand that we're not all the same, that we are all different, although we're all connected, I think it's really important for people to not have that. I know I had it myself, this kind of not competition, but just that awareness of, oh, they're seeing something that I'm not seeing, or they've got, how come I can't do that? And I would be like, come on, God, give me that. And he didn't. So it's okay that you get something different, because it's equally important, and it just shows that we're all, it's good that we're different.
Well, don't you think it's part of our healing path too? Because so many of us, we either had our intuitive abilities absolutely from suppressed all the way to just plain not really, it's underdeveloped, like not suppressed, but also not taught. And
Yeah.
so at this time, I know for me that's been a big part of my healing. And so I'm just wondering for you, has that been like a big opening for you in your healing, and how that's all developed for you?
I think as a child, certainly, from a very young child, I can remember, in bed at night and the room was dark, but in the corner over there, there was this noise going on, this chattering that I couldn't understand, that I was quite frightened of. And I still don't understand it, but I can remember it really clearly. And it was something in the corner that was chattering. And if I spoke about it, it was like, just go to sleep, it's just your imagination kind of thing. But my dad was very sensitive, and my mum is too. And my mum's still with us, she's almost 90. But my dad was very sensitive and taught us a lot about, just feeling things and being in nature, and, just all that wonderful stuff with animals. And I'm so grateful for what we had with my dad. And with my mum, we were on holiday for a couple of days just down the Clyde coast here. And all she likes to do is forage for shells and stones and things like that. We managed to get her onto the sand after a bit of wobbling. Um, and it was just great to see her still doing that at this, tender age of almost 90. Still very with it in her mind. But I think that when we're children, and certainly notice this with some of my friends, that because it didn't come naturally from our parents or our grandparents, and I think we've spoken about this before, because of maybe what some people call the witch wound. Um, we were shut down because there was a fear. There was a real fear of, if you say something or do something like that, the chances are you're going to be um, definitely, burned at the stake many, many years ago, but you're still going to be vilified for it, or, people are going to say that you're doing the wrong thing, or nowadays, it's not like that, of course. Nowadays, we can come out of the closet and talk about it. And actually, there's so much of that now. It's exciting to see how open everyone is. And still, you get the odd thing of, really, really, Lorna, but it just washes over me now. I don't bother. I used to bother, but I'm too old to bother now. So
You just lose
yeah,
attachment to the eye rolls that you might get and the
it doesn't matter anymore.
yeah, it's like I don't,
Long time gone. Yeah.
Also, I know how I sound, but it's okay.
It's
I like
okay.
it.
Yeah, we don't mind being that. Yeah, we're all comfortable with it, and our
Yeah.
family are comfortable with it. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think as children, many of us have experienced that. Certainly in my generation, I think the younger, like your generation, Robin, is possibly easier now. And I don't know how it is where you are in Oregon, but certainly here, it's easier now for people to be much more seen in the way that they want to be in their life, rather than conforming to all the, you know, culturally created programming that we've all experienced. More and more people are trying to drop that, seeing that as something that's been is holding us back in such a big way. So
Well,
yeah, come on into a Reiki class and we'll show you how
yeah,
to do that.
I'm glad you brought that up because I do think that that's part of the loss of that part of our natural intellect, our intuition, our instincts, our imagination, because of the persecution. And of course, where you live, it's so highlighted because of those witch wounds, and the, very severe, persecution that is right in your neighborhood, that was, right in your neighborhood. But I think that it's also a lot of times there's a certain level of blame for parents or grandparents suppressing those abilities. But also, one of the things that I've come to understand from their perspective is that it was part of what was important for them to teach us because it was dangerous. And so it was important for them to leave it behind, for them to not talk about it, and to teach us not to talk about it because of the potential persecution. And, we have less of it here for sure, um, although not necessarily. Like Robin dealt with a good amount, I dealt with a good amount in my development of these practices. So, in my later years, and I do think that's at the core of it. And many of us doing these practices also have past life memories of it. Been there and done that. And like we have to
Yeah,
heal
but
the
our
vows that we
ancestors,
spoke and sometimes I know in my history we were both the persecuted and the persecutors. So both sides of it. And there's healing to be done there.
very much. However, I do agree that our ancestors were probably protecting us in some way from
Yeah.
something that they knew had happened in the past. And so just gradually, each generation can come to an acceptance of where they are with it and be more open about it. I believe that for sure. And I see it with our descendants. I see it clearly. Um, we spoke about this before as well, actually, listening to our descendants and really, really hearing what they have to teach us. Um, yeah, it's exciting times, even though there's a lot of chaos going on outside the front door. It's also very exciting, I feel.
Well, we were talking earlier about how many more young people are coming into Reiki and these practices, and that's, I think, also a part of it is they do have the freedom to step into these practices. And for me, being an elder, I feel a certain level of like just holding that space for them to grow into it. I think the new ones are being born with a greater natural ability and permission, in their life to have these gifts. But that is part of what I feel like we are doing as this bridge generation. moving
I had
forward.
yeah, thank you, Colleen. It's lovely. And I had a class a couple of weeks ago where a woman who's come into many of my classes, her name's Letitia, and I know she won't mind me sharing this. And she said to me, I thought if I don't come into this master class now, I might miss it in case you retire. And I thought, well, I'll probably die teaching Reiki, but I don't intend to retire anytime soon. But it's true. People start, are like, oh, I haven't been to a master class yet. Am I even going to teach? I might not. And then later in the class, she went, I mean, if I do teach. And I thought, gosh, that's lovely that she had that second thought. Yeah.
Yeah, you see that a lot in Reiki, but it is nice because in the masterclass you're not, you certainly don't have to, it's you
No, there's
still
no
deep in your
expectation.
practice, is deep in your knowledge and all of that. But yeah, you have a lot of people that take it and we're like, well, I never planned on teaching. And then years later, they're like, well, I've had some people ask me to teach, or I'm feeling called to teach. I'm here to review because I'm feeling called to teach. Or I've had, people that they've done sessions on asking them to teach them Reiki. So
It's lovely.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's funny how it works that way. And I agree. And also I think a part of it is that with all of what you guys were saying about the different generations. And, I'm 40, I have a 9-year-old, and watching her and her generation, and how much because the forgetting happens. And I watched that with her, that when she was young, I try to keep her in her remembering as much as I can, or as much as I could. But she's now to the age where that's already started to happen with it. And just patience. For some it doesn't happen, for some they're able to hold on to that remembering, um even through all of it. You see that with the young ones that come through our classes, or through sessions, where they're able to hold on to that remembering, maybe just because they're more, sensitive, not in a bad way, but like just more open and sensitive, or empathic, or all of those things, where they're able to hold on to that remembering. But I would say too, with my age and maybe even kind of 20 and up, as much as we have the other side of this with social media, I feel like these ways are being able to be shared.
Yeah.
One of the biggest places that you kind of see people enter into these realms, that have just become more and more popular, are, I, you know, yoga is one of them. And then I would say crystals, the rise of that introduction to crystals. And then, well, wait, I actually am feeling something with this crystal, or I do feel like this has helped me in some way. And in a lot of, yogic classes and communities, you start to feel that flow of energy, maybe even acupuncture. Like there's a lot of things that have become more and more mainstream, that once you felt it, and once you've tapped into that, it's like, oh, that's what that was. And then you go and you look, and social media is one of the places that you can find the most of it. And I know it's got its duality as well. But being able to talk about these things on social media and find our people and inform people is a really big piece of that. And in my age, I started on social media in college. Um, and so I've had it for half my life. And anytime I need to look something up, or, not that, unless it's like something that I, of course, wouldn't want to have the social media influence of it, I might look elsewhere. But I'm gonna go look there. What are people saying about this? What are people's experiences of this? And so I think that's another piece of it too. We're able to share information in a way that we never have.
So easy now, isn't it, nowadays? And we're grateful for that. I think that um, the technology that we have, of course, nowadays, yeah, that duality, of course. However, my stream generally is full of positive things because it's positive things that I look at, and I get very little of the other stuff that people talk about. And I think, oh, where is that? 'Cause well, I don't want to see it anyway, and that's fine. But I don't get that coming through. And my mum even will say when she's looking at Facebook, "How come I'm getting all these things about cats?" This is because you like cats, mum. So, so she gets all the cat adverts. I got all the Reiki and crystal adverts. So depending on what you're looking for, I don't do TikTok, but I know that it's wild over here, TikTok, with things about crystals and Reiki and
Yeah.
everything. And certainly here in Glasgow, and certainly in the west of Scotland, and the whole of Scotland, actually, there's a really good spiritual community. And through some of the shares and Reiki gatherings that I do, I know bringing people together is something that people look for in our Reiki community. So I just think it's just growing and growing. I saw a post on Facebook recently that said something about, do we not have enough yoga and Reiki teachers now? And I think, why would you ever have enough? You're never going to have enough. Like there's a post going around Facebook, probably somebody that that says, a Reiki practitioner in every home, a Reiki teacher in every community or every family. And that is so true. It would be just wonderful to have that. And I wonder if the children who are being born to Reiki parents are already attuned. I feel that they are. They're coming in with that ability already and that awareness, because that's the way they're going to be brought up, is in that kind of style of household. And certainly that's true for my children. It was Rachel and Jonathan who both, taught me more about crystals than I could have known at that time. Jonathan, at the age of 2.5, was like, "Can you not feel it, Mum, of this amethyst crystal?" Stuff like, I didn't feel anything.
It's it's
So
so true. Well,
it's
and
really,
having a young one, I was in a Karuna class when I knew I was pregnant, so I was probably six weeks, but I had only known I was pregnant for a couple of weeks. So, um, and yeah, Luna had asked to be attuned, and so she was attuned in the womb, and she said she was excited to be a third generation Reiki master. And like I said, she's moved a little bit into her forgetting, but she still asks for Reiki when she is hurt or upset, or, we have it as a part of her bedtime routine. And when she was little, she would give Reiki. And now she says, well, I'm not attuned. And I ask her if she wants to be attuned. And I tell her, I said, well, you are. And, and so, it's true. It is a go-to tool. It's normalized in our house as a go-to tool, for how we deal with things, it's a part of our toolkit as a family, and how we navigate our home and our home life. And all of the things that energy work and healing arts brings to the forefront of us, right? So crystals and her connection with crystals and trinkets. Like, I call her a little dragon because she just has to collect all of the things. And like you said, with your mom, forage all of the things. And we've got breath work that's a part of our family toolkit. We have, all of the things that energy work brings up that you learn about within it, astrology, and the things that I'm attracted to. It's just a part of our family life, and it's not anything there's not anything different. There's no separation of that with her. It just is.
it's just there. It's always the way it's been. Yeah. And
Yeah,
she'll just suddenly come back in strong with it
totally.
when she's ready. She's just being a kid just now.
Yeah, absolutely. I have full faith in that, and whatever her path is, I support it and love it. And I'm observing it, as I watch how that has all transpired. I'm observing it. But I know if she had a slightly different personality, it would probably be a little different, but her personality is who she is, and I'm not trying to change that. And she's full of chi, and just wants to hear what her friends are up to and doing, and all of those things. And so that's totally fine. But at the same time, there isn't it's still just a part of what our family does. Yeah.
I think when it's a natural upbringing in that way, if you don't know something that's different, then that's just how it is. My children were the same. They were brought up. They were attuned at 9 through their own choices,
Yeah.
and it's just magical to have that connection in that way. My daughter, who's now 36 still and always has had the Reiki principles sitting in her fireplace, because I've always had it sitting in my fireplace, so it's just always there. It's a constant reminder. It's a daily, moment to just remember. It's great.
So this kind of segues into, I know that you are both a birth doula and a soul midwife. I really like that term, soul midwife. Um, and so can you talk about that and how Reiki really brings in, I've done a lot of end of life care, although not, really more for family and friends and as just part of life. And I've always thought of it as midwifing them across through their process in the family. So, can you talk about what led you to all of that?
Well, I guess it started, I guess, with the birth of my children, to be honest. I think that having Rachel made me want to be a midwife. And that didn't happen because I just didn't have the time to do retraining. However, a couple of times over the years, I signed up for a birthing doula course and I never got round to going. And then, I don't know, 6 or 7, 8 years ago, my daughter said to me about a project that was coming up in Glasgow, and I went along to that meeting, and it was about birth doula work. So I trained with them, and it's a company called AMA. It's a registered charity, AMA Birthing Companions, and they give you all the training. And what they would like in return is for you to offer, your time to their organization and to the women who come through the organization who are mostly refugees or trafficked women who are pregnant. So over the years, I've come away from that a little bit because I've been taking care of my mum. However, when I was more involved with it, and I've helped other people get more involved with it, so I'm still involved with them. However, more lately, I've been drawn to this soul midwifery work, which is like a death doula. But I think there's training that I've done is through a woman called Felicity Warner, Soul Midwifery School, and they're down south in England. Um, and I guess that I've had so many clients over the years come to me who are going through a transitional period in their life where maybe they know that they're going to be going into hospice care, or they're aware of someone in their family that's extremely unwell, and also my own experience of grief and loss through losing my son when he was 17, and also a few years ago my dad. We're all going to lose people. We're all going to experience deep grief in some way or another, and we're all going to die. So for me, it seemed like a natural process was to dive in a bit deeper and learn a bit more about it. What could I offer? We're only maybe 2 generations away from people still dying mostly at home, but because things have become so medicalized, most people either go into care or maybe they have to go into hospital and they die there, where a lot of people would want to come home to die, and we don't have the skills now because we seem to have lost a lot of those skills. Um, our grannies might have remembered those skills of taking care and just being with people when they're dying. What does that involve? I mean, there's so many things that I could say about it, and there's lots of information, of course, on my website. But I feel that to be able to offer someone compassionate companionship when they're dying, being able to create a peaceful environment, wherever we are, whether it is at home or whether it's in a hospice situation. And I know that hospices, certainly here in Scotland, are excellent. People get excellent care there. I wouldn't if I had to go into one, I wouldn't be concerned about that. I would go if it was what was, the best thing for me. But to have listening and emotional support, support for family and loved ones, and also being able to help people prepare for their death, like um, thinking about, I have my funeral organised, I did that when I got cancer a number of years ago. I thought, I'm not going to leave this for my daughter to do. I'm going to organise it, pay for it, and it's all done. And for me, that was just really easy to do because I knew what I wanted and that's fine. So that's all just sitting there. And it's not something that I think about, and we talk about it from time to time, but it's not something that's important just now. But for some people, they don't want to talk about it. There's too much fear around it. And it's not, as a soul midwife, it's not my place to force anything, but it can be something that you might be able to find a way of opening a conversation around that to say, look, what would you actually like? Do your family know what you would like? Or even to speak to a family member to try and find that out. So bringing Reiki into that kind of situation of both birthing, um, and also soul midwifery, it brings that gentle blanket of calm and love and compassion into everything that I do. And so it's the most easy thing to bring into soul midwifery work. But also, we can, a lot of people are maybe, of course, religious, and they might get some peace or comfort from their local priest or minister or something like that, whatever their religion is. There's lots of people that aren't, or they've come away from their religion. And so the soul midwifery offers us a way of helping people to spiritually prepare for their death and to, like, we can anoint people with very particular oils that can help them to allow themselves to release maybe soul wounds and things like that. There's a lot that we can do. I could go on and on, to be honest. But yeah, there is information on my website. But we can offer things like gratitude ceremonies and, get them involved. I did something recently with my mum, and my mum's not, she's not ill to be dying yet, although she's nearly 90, but she's just quite frail because of her arthritis and things like that. But, we talked about maybe clearing out some cupboards, and that might sound like something really simple, but when you start to clear out with someone, they start to remember things about, oh, I used to wear that to such and such. And then there's a whole story attached to what's in the wardrobe. And they can decide on whether or not they want it to go, or they maybe want to give it to someone. And so my mum's had this massive clear out of the garage, the garden, the hut, the porch, the house, her wardrobe, and all these clear outs have been on. And she's so happy that she's got space. And although my mum's not actually dying at the moment, well, we're all dying, I suppose, aren't we? But she's not actually ready to die at the moment, but she's actually done some of that preparation work, if that makes sense. Because she used to worry about the amount of stuff that was in the house. Does this make any kind of sense?
I think about that all the time, the file
So
that
yeah,
I would be
these
leaving
are
the house
some of
with.
the jobs. Yeah, these are
Yeah,
some of the jobs that you can support someone with as a soul midwife. Now, anybody can do that. Anybody can sit with somebody as they're dying. Anybody can sit, or help someone when they're dying. You don't need to have any official training. However, the official training for me has given me so much more about, how I can really support someone. And generally, that would be someone in my family. However, I have supported a number of people, particularly Reiki clients who are at that stage in their life. It's very humbling, very, very humbling work.
very beautiful also.
Yeah,
So I
it
think
really
that
is.
Reiki,
It can be joyful. It can actually be joyful.
yeah, well, absolutely, and Reiki flowing through gives a guidance that um, I think for me has been really beneficial because I haven't gone through training. The words you just used, compassionate companion, is the first time I've heard that connected, and that makes so much sense to me that that is the role that you're speaking of is. So can you kind of clarify a little bit more about that? I think this is a really
So,
good subject for people, and I'm glad you're talking about it.
yeah, I mean, for me, to be with someone when they're dying doesn't mean that I have to fix anything. I don't have to even speak about anything. I can just be there holding someone's hand
Yeah.
or just being in the room. And that can be, we call it vigiling. You're vigiling with someone. There's the opportunity where you can vigil all night for someone. I don't offer that because I don't have the capacity for that at the moment anyway. So there's some things that I can do, and there's other things that I won't do at this time. However, compassionate companionship is basically what it means. It's you're coming from your heart, just to be with that person, not to fix anything, not to try to do anything, just to be with that person. And allow them to speak or do whatever they want. Some of them won't speak, some of them are too far into a medicated state to speak. But just to know that there's someone there, to be there fully in full presence for that person, where you can. And it might be that the family are around, and it might be that the family are fighting, bickering. It can all be going on round about you.
Yeah.
My job in that situation is to step in and say, can we take that argument outside? Is there anything that I can do to support you just now? Is there anything, do you maybe just need to take some rest? Take the argument into another room, because a person who's in the sort of final stages of dying can probably still hear you. They don't need to hear the fighting that's going on in the family, because that might have been one of their worries, that they don't want to die because there's going to be a fight over who's getting what. It can be things like that that sound horrible, but it goes on all the time. So some of that work, if somebody knows that they're terminally ill and they want to talk about it and they want to do something about preparation, things like that, we can sit down and we can discuss how do they make a will? How do they do that? And I'm not going to make the will for them, but I can guide them into where they can go to find out how to do that. Things like that. You've got all the skills that are required for a person to find their way with that, if they're able, or help the family to find their way with it.
I think one of the biggest lessons in that some of that has taught me is to help them the way they want to be helped rather than the way that I want to help them.
Exactly that. Yeah,
Yeah, that was,
exactly that.
and a life lesson too. It was like bigger than that moment. But I remember a particular friend that was passing, and it was a long term, like it took several years, and going through the process with him all the way from the beginning to the last moments was that piece of like not asking them to do things the way I think they should do them or the way I want to do them, but for me to be in the place of listening to their needs and what matters their way. Even in my
Yeah, absolutely.
languaging, even in all of it, like just stay in that place of compassionate companionship is a really great term for that.
The thing is that, if we try to put onto a person what we think it should be, that's not going to help at all. And what they might want might sound completely alien to us. However, that means so much to that person. So, you drop your judgment, you drop everything, and you are there as a compassionate companion,
And
purely for them.
sometimes with family, it's hard to have that,
Very much. Often,
non-attachment.
often it can be easier with a stranger.
Yeah.
And I might be that almost stranger to someone. I have been stranger to people, absolute stranger to people. But usually I know them a bit. But also what this training has offered me is an opportunity to have conversations around death, talk about death. Uh, you know, it opens up space for us to live our life, and also to talk about why we might feel fear around death and why we might not feel fear around death and everything in between. just gentle, open-hearted conversations. There's a lot of, if you look up death cafes, there's a lot of death cafes around the world now that you can go along to and just have a conversation. And these are really uplifting places to go. But also it can help to explore beliefs and hopes and legacy and just all kinds of support that we can share with others. But creating space for the voice of the person who's in transition to be heard, really creating space for that. And also through the work that I've learned with Felicity, I hope to bring forward maybe next year what they call a tender loving care course, which, you know, it gives you some information on what you can do at home without having to go through a massive big training program. Just basic skills for, you know, living with dying, basically. It's really beautiful.
Mm. Well, and I know you mentioned that your son passed when he was 17. And
Yes.
so that, can you talk about how that guided you in your healing too?
Yeah, I think that many people thought I would lose my faith in, you know, my really strong belief in Reiki and the way that I live my life. A lot of people thought I might lose that when that happened. And I remember Jonathan died in a road accident, and that's 17 years ago now, when he was 17. So we're at that kind of time where he's been 17 years with us and 17 years on the other side, which feels like, gosh, you know, it's quite incredible actually how fast time goes. But I remember when it happened, and I had both a priest and a minister from the local church and chapel come to my door to ask to offer their help. And you know, they came at separate times. I invited them both in, and I'm sure that the neighbours had probably said, "You better go down and see that woman. She just lost her son, and her daughter's really, you know, she was involved. Rachel was involved in the accident as well and was very unwell." Um, but both the priest and the the minister came at separate times over the space of a week, and they both sat down with me, had a cup of tea with me, had a good blether with me, and they both were like, well, you know, we can see that you've got really strong faith. So I don't think you really need us, kind of words to that effect. But we're here if you need us, you know, but, you know, we can see that you're okay, kind of thing. I feel to have the faith that I have, to have been brought up the way that I've been brought up, in a way that I don't really have a fear of death as such. I mean, I'm not ready to go. I've got too much to do. Um, but I feel that it's just that, like, it's like the next stage in your soul's journey. So, you know, why would you be afraid? I don't want to die in pain or anything like anybody else. However, there's almost an excitement about getting there because it's going to be amazing. You know, it just depends on how you see it. I know a lot of people won't see it like that at all. But for me, I do. And we still have connection with Jonathan that's very strong. It still comes in, you know, gosh, it's so many times there's things that happen, or people say to me, gosh, Jonathan was there. And he comes into our classes quite a lot. So I know that he's still around. And some people might have their own ideas about what that might sound like, but that's okay with me. I know how it feels for me. And I'm very grateful for that. And I've never called him back. I've never said, why me? I've always just been very clear that, you know, that was his time to go. Yes, my heart was broken. Yes, I can still be on my knees in grief. However, we had 17 incredible years with him, and he had such freedom. He really lived every day of his life. So we're grateful, always grateful.
Living every day of his life on the other side too.
Yeah, for sure.
I can feel his
He
energy
often,
even as you're talking
yeah,
about him. It's like,
he
yeah.
often turns up with a skateboard. So
Yeah, I totally get that feeling, like that the energy of it just from you talking about him.
yeah.
And yeah.
But I think that having that experience of deep grief, especially with a child, has given me. Well, what I noticed was that many people came to me when I started working again. Many people came to me who had lost really close people, and they didn't know that I'd lost Jonathan. So it's like you're going to attract, the universe conspires to bring the right thing to you that you know something about. You can, I'm never going to know what somebody else feels about their loss. I only know what I feel, but you can relate to it.
Yeah.
You can understand on a level the depth of grief
And I don't
and
know
how
if
that
there's
affects.
a level of depth of grief that's more than that, Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but I don't even know how to explain that, but
Yeah.
yeah, you can relate to it in some way with each other when you've had that deep grief. And I think that we'll all experience that at some time,
And
part of
compassion.
life. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that also helps us to have compassion for ourselves, which is so important as well. And I feel that's where Kuan Yin comes in for me. She's been in my awareness since my first degree Reiki class, way back in 1997.
Interesting. She came into the invocation that we did before this.
She did, yeah.
Onion. Yeah. She's been really making an appearance.
Mm,
And more so, I mean, she's been an amazing spiritual guide and teacher for me. And of course, traveling to Japan all the time on Mount Karama, she's the first goddess that you meet, or, I know she can be both male and female energy, depending on people's perspective. Um,
yeah.
but you've traveled a lot too. So India, Peru, Jerusalem, France, Sri Lanka. So
Yeah, I've been
talk
very
about
fortunate.
that.
I'm not long back from France actually, which was a very spontaneous. Usually it's a spontaneous journey. I get a sign and it's like, okay, I need to go and I need to go now. And that happened round about April, May time. And Richard and I ended up in the south of France on the summer solstice in June. Um, and Richard woke up in the morning and said, I need to go to Lourdes. And I was like, I need to go to the south of France. And so we just done the whole thing anyway. And I'd been to Lourdes before. And I've not been brought up, as you know, I've not been brought up particularly with any religion. However, I'd had an experience at Lourdes on the 11th of the 11th of the 11th at 11:11 a.m. With a friend. And we went to Lourdes and we were dipped in the holy water there and we came out dry. And it was the strangest experience. But I think sometimes people go there looking for a miracle, and I wasn't looking for a miracle. I was just, going there because it's a place to have an experience. Um, and I had an experience. Anyway, Richard, we landed in Toulouse. We drove um, to Lourdes, and Richard had a really nice experience there. And then we were going to go and stay in near Montsegur, where the Cathars Cathar, they call it Cathar country.
Mhm.
Um, and the place that we were staying at, the lady there does courses and things, and it just so happened that she was offering a course that weekend. So it was really important that I was there, and I didn't realize that it was going to be so important because we've had Mary Magdalene and Jesus or Yeshua coming in through the Reiki classes a lot, and also through my circles that I offer and shares. There's they've been there so strongly. So I feel I was kind of guided to go to France, and often that's the case when I'm traveling. Um, I'm guided to go there. There's something there for me to learn, and rarely is it holiday. It's usually some kind of, for want of a better description, spiritual journey. Um, where it's not an easy journey. Um, it's tough. It's tough to get there. It's tough to get back, and it can be tough being there. But you're going to pick up some wonderful gifts. Just some kind of enlightened moment somewhere in the Ganges or wherever it is. It's incredible, and I certainly felt that in France. Um, the gift that I received was a really golden. Actually, it's called the rite the of the five seals, and it's a beautiful baptismal offering that we share with each other. And it's ancient, from ancient texts. Um, so yeah, it's really lovely, and it brings in this baptism of water, and also anointing of oils, and um, being snatched into the highest heavens. It's a really gorgeous thing. So I'm going to be sharing that really soon as well. Um, but I do feel I feel really privileged actually to be able to travel in the way that I have been. And that's only happened since I've been in my 50s, really. So I'm now well into my 60s. I'll be 67 this year. Um, so who knows? I'm hoping to get back to India, hoping to get to Japan at some point. I still haven't been, Colina. Maybe I'll get there at some point when you're there. But who knows? Who knows? I'll wait and see what the spontaneity of it all.
So Robin and I are really fascinated with the south of France and the Cathars and the
Mhm.
journey with Mary Magdalene and Jesus, Yeshua. Can you share more about your journey there? Because it's on our bucket list, like high on the list.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, we landed in Toulouse, which is in the south of France, and it was about an hour's journey to where we went to stay. Um, and the woman that we stayed with, her name is Alethea Pistis Sophia, and I think her name means truth and wisdom, something like that. And I've followed her on Facebook for quite a long time. And um, I said to Richard, if we're going to go to the south of France, I'd like to go there because she's got this big place that she's done up, this big, I think it was an old school or an old place for people to go and stay, kids to go and stay. It's all been done up, and it's got its own chapel. And the work that she does is really beautiful. And there's lots of animals there, goats and pigs and all sorts of creatures. But it's surrounded by water. There's water coming right down off the Pyrenees into her garden. There's a stream running down the front of the garden, and there's water that runs right round the building. And the water was hugely important because they say that there's many stories about Mary Magdalene being in the south of France. Some of them might not be true, however, and I don't know what's true and I don't know what's real. However, I had to go with what I was feeling, which is what I usually do. And she talked about, Alethea talked about the importance of the water there, and I've got a huge connection over many years, over about 20 years, with water and Dr. Emoto's work. If you know Dr. Masaru Emoto's work in the World Peace Project there that he worked with for many years, I did his events here in Glasgow a number of years ago, and a lot of that information came in through my children with the water. So I've worked with the water for a long time, and I see what Vera Austin's doing in Australia with it, and it's just incredible how memory, the memory of water, what the water holds for us. So they say that Mary Magdalene walked through these waters, and when she came into, is it Marie de la Mar, I think it's called, whatever the bay is round that way, the boat landed there, and she came in through there. Um, I don't know all the history of it, but I had a list of places. Richard and I had sat down one night and made this list of places that we wanted to visit. And there's so many. And we only got to 4 of them in the time that we were there, which means we have to go back. I had a huge healing reaction after the baptism, and was in the toilet for a whole day. So, however, the next day it was like I had, completely renewed, and it was great. But we went to places like, I'm just trying to see if I can pronounce them all. Carcassonne, Rennes-le-Château. Um, these places are shrouded in Magdalene legend. Aix-les-Bains, and it's like healing waters, Les Bains, and it's where Magdalene is said to have walked, and where the springs um, still speak, is how it was told to us that she walked through these waters, and that the Book of Love had apparently been hidden somewhere either in the mountains, but she believes that it was actually put into the waters and had disintegrated in the waters, and so the memory of that was in the waters. So there was all this wonderful information that was shared with us. But yeah, the Rite of the Five Seals is what we learned there, and then we had the opportunity to do a bit of touring around. And the weather was so hot. I mean, it was incredibly hot for that time of year. And of course, what we're hearing about climate change and everything, they were starting to have fires there and things. But we got to see everything, well, that we managed to see, which was only 4 places. However, yeah, lots more to see, and I can send you information if you want, because it's definitely worth a visit. Um, to go and see some of the places where the Cathars are said to have lived, some of the caves where they're said to have dwelled, and also where Mary Magdalene is said to have been there as well. So you could feel it. You could feel it in the air. And I don't know if it's just a collection of people who talk about it that's made it that way, or if there's actually something very real there. It felt very real to me. Very real.
Well,
Yeah.
it's centuries of pilgrimage to the area
Yeah. Yeah.
and
So there's a
centuries of
build-up of,
conflict.
belief and everything there. But yeah, there's lots of guides that can take you around all these places if you want to hire a guide. We just hired a car and bumped our way around the corners and on the wrong side of the road and eventually got there. That was an experience in itself. But yeah, just incredible. It's like it feels really ancient, and like the word primordials coming to me, it just feels really, really old and in your bones. Um, like you know it. I don't really know how to explain that. But yeah, very, very lovely. But it's like a sacred remembering of something that you can't quite put your finger on.
I feel like I can,
Go, you have to go. Actually, you do have to go.
that's why I feel like there's a remembering I'm being called to, we're being called to. We've
Yeah,
talked about it. And you mentioned Sophia, Lady Wisdom, has
yeah,
really been coming in. Um, and it's interesting, I can look back in retrospect and see all of the places that she's been coming in. But finally, one day she was like, hey, like
yeah.
I'm talking to you. So it was oh, you know, I hear you. And so she's been showing up. So it's really fascinating. I didn't know that you had gone on this trip. And Robin and I talk about it all the time. Like this is something that is, we definitely want to go on a spiritual journey there.
Yeah. And if you just bathe in the waters, even if you just put your feet in, but if you can bathe in the waters or pray or just simply sit, just be there. There's so many places that are so holy. I don't really know how else to put it. It's just beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, definitely going back.
Yes.
Back for more. And the thing is that where we were, you know, there's an opportunity there to actually take people and, you know, that you could do a class there quite easily.
Oh,
It's something that you might want to look into. Yeah,
there's something. Yeah.
yeah, there is something. I know people said to me, take us there, and I'm like, I don't know, I don't have the capacity to do that just now because I'm taking care of other things just now, but
Mhm.
maybe sometime. But yeah, you could definitely do that. And people would come, I'm sure, especially
Mm.
to a place like that. Very special,
All the ways the guidance shows up, right?
for sure.
Yeah.
Well, Lorna, what do
Yeah.
you have coming up? With Reiki and other things that you're doing, and you're always doing a lot.
Well,
So,
yeah,
um,
there's lots on as usual. Definitely, well, my usual teachings of Reiki, Usui, Holy Fire, World Peace 3, Reiki, and Karuna later in the year. An animal class coming up really soon as well. Um, and I'm doing Reiki drumming as well, which is great fun.
right.
Um, and yeah, offering the rite of the five seals. I've already got a list of people interested in that, and I'm just sitting with it just now, just waiting for the right moment for that to come in. But it's very, very present just now. It's kind of sitting right in front of me. So I'm going to have to make time for that. However, and I want to do it when I've really got the time rather than trying to squeeze it in. So I'm just sitting with it just now. But I'm still offering lots of shares and circles, hoping to do another Reiki gathering this year. We'll see if that happens. I've got a date in mind for November. If you're coming over to Scotland, let me know in plenty of advance and I'll arrange something so that you can speak at it. It would be great. And I think the last time we spoke, I said, yeah, I'm going to get a podcast up and running and I'll definitely get you on it. I still haven't done that. So
On the
we'll maybe get
list.
around
We
to, maybe get round to that as well. We'll see how that goes. Um, yeah, just, continually manifesting, creating. I think that's possibly part of my human design. I'm going to be looking into that soon as well, just to see a bit more about myself, learning about myself all the time. Yeah, it's exciting. Mm.
Well, and you're in Glasgow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in Glasgow, in Scotland, teaching regularly. I've got a studio near the city centre, where I do all my teachings, and I do my one-to-ones at home here in the sort of northeast of Glasgow. Yeah, it's great. Website, do you want me to mention it?
Yeah, why
Yeah.
don't we go ahead and go through all the information?
Yeah, website's really easy. It's just lornamclean.co.uk. Loads of information on there. It's probably got far too much on it, actually. But yeah, happy with what's there. I've taken some things down because there's some things that I just don't want to do anymore. For example, I'm a holistic therapist as well. Did a lot of massage before. My body doesn't want to do it anymore. So, I'm just stepping back from that. And like many therapists, I've got a list of other people that I can refer people on to. So there's always going to be people, going to people. It's great. There's never going to be enough therapists, I don't think, enough Reiki teachers. We just need more and more of that. So I just love teaching Reiki, and that's really my favorite thing to do. That's when I feel my most inspired.
And then you're pretty active on social. I think I'm friends with you. Is it on Facebook or Instagram that I'm always seeing you post things?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook as well. I'm not on TikTok. That's as far as I'll go, is Instagram and Facebook.
That's
It's more than enough for this old timer.
true. And that's Lorna McLean.
Instagram, I think it's Lorna McLean Reiki, and yeah, just Lorna McLean for
Okay.
Facebook. It's
And
quite easy to find me.
we'll put it all in the show notes, of course. You can go and just click the links. But I do want to clarify how her last name is spelled. It's Lorna and McLean is McLean. So we
Correct.
would maybe pronounce it McLean here, but it's
Yes,
pronounced McLean,
that's right.
properly pronounced McLean.
Good. I'm
That's
glad you did
correct.
that because I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, looking forward to what's coming. And of course, we're moving into autumn now, and you can really feel the difference in the air here. I don't know if you're feeling it there as well. So hopefully a few nights round the fire,
Yeah,
little Reiki for everyone.
it's been a big change here in the last few days where it's been crisper and yeah, you can feel it moving in for sure.
Yeah, I like it. It's lovely. It's lovely to feel the four seasons, isn't it? We're very
Wow.
fortunate.
Yes, very fortunate here to do the same. They're
Yeah,
pretty all distinct seasons and it's nice.
very clear. Yeah,
Well, I've said it many times, probably even to you last time, but I grew up in San Diego, California, which is on the beach and, really beautiful, but I always knew I wasn't home until I visited Oregon, which is very much like Ireland, England, Scotland, all of it. And it just called like I had to, I had to move here. I had to live in this weather and in this green, like looking at your background. Like, yeah, I have to have that green and
yeah.
that, yes.
Have you looked at your ancestry, Colleen?
Oh, yes, it's all there from all over, the Celtic realms all the way around from ancient times to um, well, not too current. I guess the last ancestors came over from Ireland and maybe during the famine during
Yeah,
that time, but
that would
always
be the big
before
time.
that
Lots of
from
people.
all the
Yeah.
entire region on both sides.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, get yourselves over here sometime.
I I am definitely, yeah, like okay. Another bucket list.
Yeah.
Like you said about the podcast, it's on the list.
Yeah,
That's what we always
the
call
ever
it. It's on the
the ever
list.
growing list. Yeah.
On the list. And the list, they rise and then they go, oh, well, not yet. And then, up and down.
All that for
Right.
sure.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Well, definitely let us know when you get the five rights um, information together, however that looks for you.
Yeah, I've got it all together. I'm actually ready. I'm just waiting for the timing now. I'm completely ready with it. And just the timing now. I just need to my diary. I'm looking at my diary and I'm like, it's
On
pretty
the
full up.
list.
So I'm already looking at next year for things, and I want to do something this year with it. So we'll see what happens. We'll hopefully get it.
Yeah. Well, definitely let us know.
Yeah, we'll do.
Uh,
Okay.
well, thank you so much for being on again. As always, we love talking with you. And, as we were talking earlier about just our ability now to communicate around the world is so astonishing and such a gift, and that we
Truly
get to
is.
do this together. Thank you.
Oh, thank you too. It's just been lovely to be back again to see you both and just share some joy.
Mhm.
Lovely.
Really true. All right, Lorna. Well, thank you so much to all of our listeners. Of course, we're always at ReikiLifestyle.com, and we will catch you on the next one.